32 years old. An age when, as they say, life is just beginning. But on the day the number 32 firmly settled into my biography, life seemed not only not to be beginning but was hurtling downhill. Emily, my wife, had promised a modest celebration with her family. "Nothing special, honey, just a quiet family dinner," she said in the morning, kissing me on the cheek. Her eyes, usually sparkling with fun, seemed somehow dull today, but I didn't pay attention to it. Who knows, maybe she's just tired, I thought, delving into the routine of work matters. The evening came quickly, as it always does, when you're waiting for something pleasant. I returned home, anticipating a cozy evening with loved ones. But already in the hallway, I was alerted by an unnatural silence. Usually, the house was filled with laughter and voices, especially when Emily's family gathered. Today, however, there was an ominous, tense silence. When I entered the dining room, it was as if I had been electrocuted. The table was set with some strange, frightening formality. Snow-white tablecloth, sparkling crystal glasses, silverware, arranged with meticulous precision. In the center of the table, like a sinister accent, stood a vase with snow-white lilies, flowers that I had always considered a symbol of mourning, not celebration. Emily stood at the head of the table, like a queen sitting on a throne. In her hands, she held a stack of papers. Her face was inscrutable, like a mask hiding a storm of emotions. Next to her, on both sides of the table, were her parents, Linda and Robert, and her brother, Michael. Self-satisfied smirks played on their faces, which sent an unpleasant chill down my spine. They looked at me like predators at cornered prey. "Happy birthday, Mark," Emily said, and her voice sounded sharp and unnatural, like a knife blade sliding on glass. The sarcasm in her tone was so obvious that it pierced me like an arrow. "I have a surprise for you." With these words, she forcefully threw the stack of papers onto the table. A faint crack echoed through the room, like a harbinger of disaster. The papers scattered across the snow-white tablecloth, like white flags of surrender. I instinctively glanced at them and froze, as if petrified. Divorce papers. The word divorce pulsed before my eyes, like a sinister inscription on the wall. "I'm leaving you, you pathetic loser." Emily spat out, and her words, like a spit, hit me in the face. I couldn't believe my ears. Loser? She's calling me that? A man who loved her more than life, who was ready to do anything for her. An explosion of laughter erupted in the room. Linda, Robert, and Michael's laughter was loud, gloating, as if they were enjoying my humiliation. Linda raised a glass of champagne, as if proclaiming a toast. "We never thought she would marry someone like you," she shouted, and her voice was full of contempt. The world around me seemed to turn upside down. I stood, stunned, as if punched in the stomach. There was a vacuum in my head, as if all thoughts had vanished at once. I looked at Emily, at her family, at the divorce papers, and couldn't believe this was really happening. This is some kind of nightmare, I thought. Now I'll wake up, and all this will disappear. But it wasn't a nightmare. It was reality, cruel and merciless. A reality that Emily and her family had created. A reality that in an instant destroyed my life. Without saying a word, I took a pen from the table, put my signature on the divorce papers, returned them to Emily, and left the room. I didn't want to see their gloating faces anymore, didn't want to hear their mocking laughter. I just wanted to get as far away as possible from this place, from these people, from this nightmare. They thought they had broken me. They thought they had humiliated me to the end. They thought I would break down and fall to my knees, but they had no idea what I was capable of. They didn't know that deep down, I had already begun to build plans for revenge, plans that would change everything. The year that followed that terrible birthday became a year of transformation, a year of pain, disappointment, but also a year of incredible inner strength and rebirth. I plunged into work with maniacal persistence, as if trying to drown the pain in a sea of code and algorithms. The revolutionary application that I had been developing for several years became my obsession, my only goal. I worked day and night, forgetting about sleep and food. My small office became my fortress, my refuge from pain and disappointment. Liters of coffee, takeaway pizza, the light of the monitor reflecting in tired eyes, that was my whole life during that period. But I didn't complain. Work gave me comfort, gave me a sense of control over my life, which I had lost on that fateful birthday. The application I was working on was an ambitious project. It was a next-generation personal organizer that was supposed to change people's perception of productivity and time management. I put all my knowledge, all my strength, all my soul into it, and it paid off. A year later, the Time Master application took off. First, a few small tech blogs wrote about it. Then, major online publications picked it up. Soon I was invited to a prestigious tech conference in San Francisco. My presentation caused a sensation. Investors lined up, offering generous investments. Within a few months, my company became worth millions. I was at the peak of success. I was featured on the covers of tech magazines, invited to television shows, and interviewed by leading business publications. My name became synonymous with innovation and success. My fortune grew by leaps and bounds. I bought myself a beautiful house overlooking the ocean, an expensive car, started dressing in the best boutiques. Life was getting better. No, life was better than ever. But Emily knew nothing about it. She lived in her little world, confident that she had broken me, that I was leading a miserable existence as a loser. She had no idea that I had become who I had always dreamed of being, successful, rich, influential. Everything changed one fine day when she accidentally saw me on television. I was giving a live interview, talking about my success, about my application, about my plans for the future. Emily watched me, mouth agape, not believing her eyes. The man on the screen, confident, stylish, successful. Was this the same Mark she had dumped a year ago? Impossible. But it was me. And it was just the beginning. That same evening, my phone literally exploded with messages. Unknown numbers, congratulations, offers of cooperation. Among this chaos, I noticed a familiar number, Emily's number. I wanted to ignore it at first, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the message. Mark, I saw you on television. Is that you? It can't be. Please call me. We need to talk. I smirked. Talk? About what? About how she humiliated me on my birthday. About how her family laughed at my pain. About how she called me a pathetic loser. No, thank you. I have nothing to talk to her about. I ignored the message and blocked her number. But Emily didn't give up. The next day, messages started pouring in from other numbers. Mark, it's Emily. Please don't ignore me. I know I acted terribly. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Mark, I haven't stopped loving you for a second. I was stupid, blind. Give me a chance to fix everything. Mark, please, at least hear me out. I want to explain why I did what I did. I read these messages with cold indifference. Her words didn't touch me. Her regrets seemed fake, contrived. She just wanted to come back to the successful, rich Mark. She didn't need me myself. She needed my money, my status, my new life. I continued to ignore her messages, but Emily didn't back down. She started coming to my house. First, she just rang the doorbell, begging to talk. I didn't open it. Then, she started waiting for me near the office. I pretended not to notice her. Her desperate attempts to get me back were starting to annoy me. One night, returning home, I saw a car parked opposite my house. Emily was sitting inside. She was asleep, her head resting on the steering wheel. It was cold outside. The end of autumn was already felt in the cool wind. I walked up to the car and knocked on the window. Emily woke up, startled, and looked at me with fear. Seeing me, her face lit up. She jumped out of the car and rushed to me, like a lifeline. Mark, please, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. I'll do anything. Anything you want. Just give me another chance. I looked at her coldly, indifferently. Inside me, there was not a drop of sympathy, not a drop of pity, only ice. You had a chance, Emily. You threw it away. I was wrong, she cried, choking on tears. I've changed. I realized what I lost. You didn't lose anything. You threw it away, and now it's gone. She reached out to me, trying to take my hand, but I sharply pulled my hand away. Goodbye, Emily. I turned around and walked towards the house, leaving her standing on the street, in tears and despair. I felt like a winner. I had taken revenge on her. I had shown her what I was really worth. But for some reason, there was no joy inside me, only emptiness. Emily's despair quickly turned into anger. A rejected woman is a terrible force. She started spreading dirty gossip about me, trying to discredit me in the eyes of the public. She told everyone that I was a domestic tyrant, that I cheated on her right and left, that I stole money from her. Her lies were absurd and ridiculous, but she persistently spread them, like a virus. At first, I didn't pay attention to it, thinking it would pass by itself. But the rumors spread like wildfire. My reputation began to suffer. Investors started asking questions. Partners began to doubt. I had to hire a lawyer to deal with this dirty stream of lies. Lawsuits, rebuttals in the press, public statements. All this took time, energy, and nerves. The stress was enormous. I had achieved everything I had dreamed of. I had money, fame, success. But I was unhappy. Some oppressive emptiness was growing inside me, which nothing could fill. Work no longer brought the same satisfaction. Parties and social events seemed meaningless and empty. The expensive house and luxury car brought no joy. I felt lonely and lost. Despite the crowds of fans and partners surrounding me, I started drinking, first in the evenings, to relieve stress, then more and more often, to drown out the inner pain. Alcohol gave temporary relief, but then it only got worse. The emptiness became even deeper, the despair even stronger. I was turning into a shadow of myself, a successful businessman in public, a broken and unhappy person at heart. I lost myself. I lost the joy of life. I lost everything I once lived for. And all this because of revenge, because of hatred, because of the desire to prove to Emily that I was worth something. But was it worth it? In the end, who did I prove anything to? Emily? Her family? Myself? And what did I win in the end? Nothing. Only pain and disappointment. One night, as I sat at home, drowning in alcoholic oblivion, the doorbell rang. I struggled to get up and open the door. Emily stood on the doorstep. She was pale, exhausted, trembling all over. Her eyes were full of tears and despair. "Mark, I'm pregnant," she whispered, barely audible. "The child is yours." I felt a wave of nausea. Pregnant? My child? It's impossible. We haven't been together for over a year. This can't be true, I said, shaking my head. You're mistaken. She insisted that the child was mine. She said it was a miracle, that it was a chance for us to start over. I listened to her with disbelief and irritation. I didn't believe a word she said. I thought it was another manipulation, another attempt to get me back. I agreed to meet her the next day to discuss everything. We arranged to meet at a cafe near her house. I arrived on time, but Emily wasn't there. I waited for half an hour. She still wasn't there. I called her phone, but no one answered. I drove to her house. The door was open. Inside, there was a mess. The light was on in the bathroom. I entered the bathroom and froze on the threshold. The picture I saw was forever etched in my memory. Emily lay in the bathtub, filled with water, stained with blood. Her wrists were cut. A note lay on the bedside table. I took it with trembling hands and read it. "Forgive me, Mark. I couldn't take it anymore. I hope you can forgive me." I called the police. Doctors and investigators arrived. But it was too late. Emily was dead. She had committed suicide. A year has passed. I stood at Emily's grave, holding a bouquet of white lilies in my hand. The very lilies that stood on the table on that fateful birthday. Her family blamed me for her death. And maybe they were right. Maybe I was to blame too. Emily was broken long before I came into her life. But perhaps I was the last straw that broke the camel's back of her despair. Perhaps my revenge, my indifference, my cruelty, all this pushed her to the edge. And in the end, she broke me too. Her death was a blow for me, from which I couldn't recover for a long time. I lost sleep, appetite, interest in life. Success and wealth no longer had any meaning for me. Everything seemed meaningless and empty. I laid the flowers on Emily's grave and slowly walked away, dragging my feet. My heart was heavy with regret and guilt. I got everything I ever wanted, but it didn't matter, because in the end, I lost the most important thing myself. I lost my soul, my humanity, my ability to love and be loved, and that was the most terrible loss of all.